Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to explore topics related to living the intentional life. And you may notice, if you are a returning visitor, that I am not in my usual spot for filming. I am not in my office. I am teaching in a different city for a couple of weeks, and so I stole a classroom and I've come in to film this video here in not the best conditions, but I think you can bear with me, right? Okay, so friends, this week's video, I'd like to propose a question to you. How important is willpower to living an intentional life? Now, this channel, a large portion of this channel is dedicated to exploring how we live life intentionally, right? And I want to make sure we're on the same page. When you think of an intentional life, how key, how important is willpower for that? Well, a certain amount of willpower is important because we want to be selective. We want to use our willpower to open ourselves up to rising on the emotional scale. We want to use our willpower to open ourselves and remain as open as we possibly can to the powerful flow of intention. But when we think of willpower, for the most part, I think we usually imagine setting a goal and using our will to move in that direction. And I believe that the intentional life is perhaps the opposite of that. Rather than using our willpower to move in the direction of completing a goal, the intentional life is opening ourselves to move with the powerful flow of intention in the direction of the manifestation of what we want to experience. Those are very different things in my mind. One of them takes energy. Well, actually, both of them can take energy, but energy in the sense of work and toil and struggle and force and making things happen. The other takes energy in excitement and joy and love and moving smoothly and easily in the direction of the things that we want to experience. That takes energy as well. Yeah? You're not going to sit on a couch, mostly, and wait for things to come to you living an intentional life. Now, living an intentional life is an excited and enjoyable and enjoyed life. It's a life where we move and experience and do in the world because that's why we are here in these physical bodies, in this physical universe, at least as far as I understand it. And I hope you agree, because that is, I think, the premise of what we're discussing. And so, friends, I have a large tarot spread and oracle spread all laid out for us. Same one we used last week and the week before. Let's take a look at this week's spread. Beautiful spread, don't you think? I hope so. I love these cards. I love the way they lay out. And friends, as always, at the end of this video, there will be a short clip that gives you the names of the decks and the names of the creators. And also in the description box below, there will be links for you to go and check out these decks and perhaps purchase one or maybe all of them if you have that ability, if you are blessed with that fortune to be able to do that. I don't get any financial remuneration if you use those links. They're simply there for your convenience and hopefully to promote these wonderful creators of these beautiful decks. So friends, you just saw the layout. And in case you are a first timer, I will give you a brief rundown. There's a in-depth explanation of this spread on my channel in the Spreads and More Spreads playlist. This is the spread called the Ace of Pentacles spread, the Ace of Discs spread, Ace of Discs spread. So check that out if you want to really understand what this spread is all about. But to give you a brief outline, you saw 4 cards in the center. They give us the thesis statement of the spread, the main idea. And there were 3 cards above from a different tarot deck, and they give us the air, where our attention lies, where our thoughts are going, what we're looking at, what we're thinking about. And then there were 3 cards below, which give us the earth, and they're from a 3rd tarot deck, right? And they tell us about what we are experiencing in the world physically, what we are doing in the world, what we want to accomplish or touch and manipulate with our hands. That's the physicality of our daily lives. So we've got those 3 sets of cards, and then on either side of the central set of 4, there were 2 oracle cards from the same deck, and they give us the advice for the spread. So main theme, our thoughts and what we're looking at, are what we're doing and the physicality, and then the advice. So friends, that's what you saw. We're going to start with the main idea, the thesis statement, and here it is. This is a beautiful deck created by Payne-Towler. And this deck, you probably already know, was intended to be used with reversals. So every time I shuffle in reversals, yeah? And so we've got 2 reversed and 2 upright cards in the 4. Starting from the upper right, we had the Magus in reverse, which would be the Magician in a Pamela Colman-Smith deck. And then to the left of that, we had the Page of Wands in reversed. And then below that card, we had the 2 of Cups upright. And then next to that, on the right, we had the Knight of Wands upright. So that's the order I'm going to be reading them in. I didn't see any particular reason to do it to read them in a different order. And I think the cards in this order give us a good message. And it's that Magus in reverse that inspired my intro for this video. Yeah, the Magus in reverse. Who is that? Let me show you the card up close and personal. This is it reversed, and this is it upright. The Magus. Beautiful card. Now we've got this figure standing spread-legged on a set of wings that are fiery. They're red, right? And the figure has a crown, and in both of the figure's hands, there are 2 Caduceuses, one in each hand. And on one side there's the moon, and on the other side there's the sun. And there is a triangle above the crowned head, right? Yes, there is. Beautiful card, beautiful image, I think. And there's also the sun in the solar plexus, right? Which gives us that idea of willpower. Solar plexus, actually, it's more in the sacral chakra area to me, but in that general area of willpower, right? Our gut, what we want to do, what we want to express, how we want to interrelate in the world. And this is an air card in this deck. Now, the Magus is the element of air. So there's also mind, thought in this as well, which is good because there are no swords in this central set of 4. There aren't many swords in this entire spread. So having this air sign in the trump gives us a little bit more balance of the thought here. So what do I want to say about the Magus? Well, the Magus in reverse is telling us to know ourselves. Yeah, know thyself. Know thyself was one of the 3 inscriptions in the entrance of the oracle at Delphi. Now, in Delphi, in Greece, there was probably the most famous oracle, a woman. I believe I don't know if we actually have seen any physical remains of who the oracle was, but we believe it was a woman who gave predictions and who told people's futures. And there are 3 maxims that were inscribed on the entranceway to the oracle, and one of them was know thyself. And that was one of the most frightening ones to people, because knowing yourself fully means knowing everything about yourself, even the things that you want to hide yourself from, right? So the directive for this card in reverse is to know yourself. And that's part of that air, right? Air, instead of knowing what's out there, this is telling you to know what's in here. It says we want to do that so that we can penetrate the distortions and the pretense and the ego fantasies that we have. Because a lot of what we think we want to do, we don't really want to do. Some of the things, probably a lot of the things, I'm going to go with a lot of the things we think we want to do, we don't want to do because, what does that mean? What that means is we think we want to do them because we think we will look more important in the eyes of others. We think we will look more successful in the eyes of others. We think that's the thing that we are expected to do. We think that we will be more appreciated and more loved if we do this thing, if we accomplish this thing, if we meet this person. That person with all the glam and all the bling, if I'm with that person, I will look better and I will be loved more and I will be appreciated more. All of those things are ego fantasies. Well, 99.9% of those things are ego fantasies, especially the way that I'm describing them. Now, sometimes buried in that, there is a kernel of what we actually want to do. Maybe we actually do want to be in a relationship with that other person who is kind of blingy and kind of shiny and kind of impressive looking, but not for those reasons. Does that make sense? Maybe there is a kernel of that inside, but we need to penetrate our own distortions, our own pretenses, and our own ego fantasies to truly know what it is we want, what we want to do. And it's those ego fantasies and distortions of perception which give us those goals that a lot of us say we need to work hard and strive for and accomplish with a lot of effort and toil and suffering so that we look like we are successful. This card in reverse is saying, don't do that. Because that's not an intentional life. The way that I am describing intentional living, intentionality, that is not an intentional life. That is the life of ego and struggle and suffering. This card reminds us that yes, thought does become form. Yes, but in the imagining phase, we also want to remember, as we imagine, as we put those things that we think we want to do, even as we know ourselves, even if we really know our true desires, those desires that we get from the eternal nature that we are as we have manifested and co-create these beautiful bodies that we inhabit. Those desires that come from the fullness of ourselves, even those, as we imagine them and we place them on the powerful river of our intention, they're a little bit amorphous, right? They're not concrete yet. They're not manifested yet. And sometimes in those beginning imagining stages, thought morphs from form to form very easily. And that can give us two problems. One, the path of our intention becomes a little bit wobbly. And that's okay. That's okay. Intention will work it out. Another thing is it can give us a false sense of expectation about how things can arise. Now, we imagine this will happen, that will happen, that will happen, and there's this, in our imagining, there's this really quick boom, boom, boom progression to events. And sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Yeah, we have false expectations from how easily things can change from, well, I start to learn about tarot. I start to learn about tarot and I start getting comfortable, and then suddenly everybody's going to come and ask for readings from me because I know so much. Yeah, that imagining gives us a false sense of expectations about how quickly things will happen, the direction that things will happen. We start imagining a path for the current of intention to flow that is unnatural because it's just imagination. Intention knows the correct course because intention knows how to get all of those things that we have imagined for ourselves into our experience. And we cannot imagine that course because it is so complex. Because it's not just the tarot reading, it's also the relationship, it's also the house, it's also the vacation, it's also all of these things that we want to experience. Intention knows the path to get all of those things lined up, but we don't. Even as we imagine, we don't. And so we can't imagine all of the steps that will be taken in order to get to that thing that we imagine and we've placed on our powerful current of intention. Does that make sense? That's what this is reminding us of. And so, because we can't imagine, it is impossible for us in these brains, these human brains, to imagine the detailed complexity of the powerful current of intention moving from event to event to event to event in our lives, because we can't imagine all of that. What do we want to do? We want to keep our balance so that we don't get knocked off when something that we didn't expect comes into our experience. We want to keep our balance and our ability to harmonize polarities of this and that. Job and family, for example. Yeah? Exercise and rest, for example. Time expressing love physically and time expressing solitude physically. We want to be able to balance all of those things and harmonize our lives. And the way to do that is by opening ourselves to what? To intention. And allowing intention to move us in the direction of we want to go in. And also we want to unify all aspects of mind to be able to do that. And that's what this magus in reverse is reminding us. It's the magus of the interior. It's the magus of our psyche, rather than the magus of working in the external world. That magus is the upright, to me. To me, the reverse is the magus of the interior. And unifying gut, heart, and mind. Gut, heart, and mind. The three primary loci of our thinking, processing, and understanding of this physical experience in this physical universe. So that's where we start. That's how we're going to live our life intentionally in this week. By doing the inner work, by really learning to know ourselves and balancing ourselves and not going off on a fantasy trip of how we're going to get the things that we want into our experience. And penetrating which of those things that we think we want, we really actually want as eternal beings having this human experience. And so the next card, right next to it, was the Page of Wands, also in reverse. Let me show it to you upright. Here it is upright, the Page of Wands, another beautiful card. This whole deck is beautiful. The Page of Wands. This is spring, both upright and reverse. It is spring. It's the spring equinox. And the pages, all of the pages in this deck are the servants of their queens, the queens of their suits. So this is the servant of the Queen of Wands. And we've got another wand royal here, right? Coming up later on, we've got the Knight of Wands. So we're starting off with the page, but in reverse. And in upright reverse, we see this pagely figure. There's a burst of fire. They're holding a sigil in their hand. There's the sun and the moon at their feet and above their heads. Wrapped in a beautiful red garment, a drape. Just a gorgeous image. With the moon above their head, wings. This page has wings. Looking a little bit sad, but maybe contemplative instead. Maybe processing within themselves instead. but definitely with a burst of fire. Very, very fiery card. And so what do we get from this page in reverse? Well, this page is an educator and an inspirer of others to accomplish the will of the Queen of Wands. Yeah? So he's an inspirer for the Queen, he's an educator for the Queen, but he is also self-sovereign. He's also self-empowered, which is what we want to be as the Magus living an intentional life. Now we do the work of self-exploration and distinguishing between fantasy and the actual course of our intention, unifying ourselves, and then we also realize that we are self-sovereign and self-empowered as we both inspire those around us and we teach, not perhaps by words, but as St. Francis says, teach the gospel, when necessary, use words. Because the best way to teach is not by telling people things, but by demonstrating them, by living that thing that we are trying to teach. And that's what this page is. And in reverse, that is what this page is. Now, because he is in reverse, he, she, they are in reverse, this page masks their nobility, playing the assistant and greaser of wheels, if that makes sense. Yeah, this page isn't out doing for, but rather allowing things to be done for. And there is later on, this idea is going to be coming up again. That idea of not exactly doing things, and still getting everything accomplished. That's going to show up in the advice cards later on. But here we are. This page, all the pages, but especially this page, is a very noble being, but doesn't stand out like, hey, look at me, I'm a noble being. Yeah? This page works behind the scenes by influencing people to get things done for the Queen, by helping people get things done for the Queen from the background. And so, because this page in reverse is working in the background, it's best for this page to also keep their own counsel and be sure that they are not so much, safe, but if we're living an intentional life, our safety is not necessarily something we want to put too much of our attention on. Yeah? We want to know and allow that we are held in the hands of the divine, knowing that we are safe. And that whatever happens, even if we pop out of these physical bodies, we who are the eternal beings that we are safe. However, we do want to be sure that we're not being, that we have 360 perception. Yeah, that things aren't going behind our back that we aren't aware of. Because in order for us to be in the background, we want to make sure that nobody's behind us, manipulating us into doing things that we haven't intended for ourselves or for our Queen. Does that make sense? So yeah, we want to keep our own counsel and have 360 perception. So, if we can do that, you know what happens? A lot of the time, we are taken into the confidence of other people. People start talking to us and start revealing things to us, and we learn more. And because we are taken into their confidence, and we know more about what's going on behind the scenes, we can become more effective in accomplishing the things that we want and moving in the direction of the experiences we want to have. And many of those experiences, if not most of those experiences, are also at the service of others. Now we're working and we are manifesting not only for ourselves, but also for our Queen. We're manifesting for those that we hold dear to us, who we appreciate, who we have brought into and hold up for ourselves. And we have the power. We have the power and we are independent. And in that sense, we can also be a little bit dangerous. Not that we are in danger, but we can be dangerous to others because we are independent, because we are self-sovereign and we are self-empowered, we are independent of loyalties and manipulation by others. We're independent of that. Even though we do want to maintain our 360 perspective, we want to see what's behind us. That helps us to be independent. And so people cannot, in this way, cannot manipulate us into doing things for them. We are the ones, hopefully not manipulating others, but influencing others to do things for us and by extension for our queen. And there's a great difference between manipulating people into doing things and influencing them and inspiring them to do things. Because if we're inspiring them to do things that are for their benefit and the benefit of our queen, we are supremely powerful as livers of our intentional lives. And that's a beautiful thing. That's an absolutely magnificently beautiful thing. That's living an intentional life. And it's a creative way of living an intentional life. And a lot of this stuff that we're perceiving can be happening in our pre-conscious, in with our intuitive minds. Now, intuitively, we can know. We are also inspired by our eternal selves to be able to do this. Because we are open. As we live our intentional lives, we are open to the power of intention. We're open to the information of our eternal selves. We're open to so much. And we are so empowered, self-empowered, self-sovereign. As we co-create, not necessarily alone, right? We're empowered, we're self-sovereign, and we co-create. And that's the most powerful stance in an intentional life. And I don't know why I said in so hard, why I emphasized in so much. But still, that's a very powerful stance in an intentional life. And so, what do we move into? We move into the Two of Cups, which is actually my card for the day. I've got those, it's not a card, it's a charm. My charm for the day. I've got the tarot charms. I mentioned that in a previous video. The tarot charms, I'm wearing it around my neck. Let's see if I can pull it out here just briefly for you. Yes, see, this is my charm for the day. And you can't see it, it's too far away from you. But my charm for the day is the Two of Cups, which is interesting, right? So, this is a Two of Cups in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. This is a Two of Cups in the Tarot of the Holy Light tradition. So what is this card telling us? Well, the Two of Cups is, it's Cancer, Mars in Cancer. It's also the Moon in Aquarius. So Mars, neither of them are particularly, they're not in their houses, right? They're not in their domiciles. Now Mars's domicile is definitely not Cancer. The Moon, or in some people's thoughts, the Sun, but most commonly the Moon, is in the domicile of Cancer. And the Moon, for Aquarius, Saturn is the planet for Aquarius, but here we've got the Moon in Aquarius. So these planets are not in their homes. They're not at home in these places, but they can work it out. So what do we have in this card? This is a fairly simple but also deeply meaningful card. We've got the two hands holding two cups, one up, one down. We've got that yin-yang, yang in Korean. Now we've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night, right? Am I holding it up right? Yes, I am. Good, yes. So we've also got these two snake-like creatures. Now, it's like an omphalos, the snake eating itself, but instead we've got these two, one eating the other and the other eating the first. And also creating themselves as they eat each other, right? It's a self-creation by self-digestion. But here they're doing it to each other and for each other, kind of in a partnership, right? This is a partnership card of affinity and mutual understanding and love. So it's not only romantic love, it's also understanding and partnership in co-creating, perhaps. It's the union of alchemical opposites. With Mercury at the center, did you see, maybe you can't see it. Hopefully you saw it when I showed you this whole spread at the beginning of this section of the video. There's, in the center of that star that's in gold, there's the sign of Mercury. There's the symbol for Mercury. Who is Mercury? Mercury is an intersex being, an androgynous being. The fused sexuality, fused male and female in one. Mercury is able to use both male and female thought processes, both left-brained and right-brained. And I'm not going to say who is who, but that's the idea of male and female thought processes, heart and mind, left brain, right brain, holistic, detailed. Mercury is able to bring all of that together and use all of that in conjunction, in the way that Mercury thinks, in the way that Mercury communicates, in the way that Mercury acts in the world as well. Yeah? Mercury is the universal and probably one of the first non-binary beings of the universe. No, it's not true. That's definitely not true. Because the first progenitors of the gods, in at least Greek tradition, were non-sexed. Yeah? Were neither male nor female. We might think of them more as female, but were neither male nor female. And those beings created beings which created the Titans, which created the God. I mean, there's a whole line of genealogy of the Greek cosmos, and the very, very first ones, for example, chaos, was non-gendered. And then the first being that sprang forth from chaos, I believe, was a female being which auto-procreated, which created their own offspring without any male influence, which I think were the Titans after that. And I may have gotten that a little bit mixed up. But anyways, so no, Mercury was not the first intersex or non-binary being. But still, of the pantheon that we know, sure, he's the most famous of them. He, she, they are the most famous of them. Which is wonderful. That adds gives Mercury a lot of power, a lot of flexibility, ability to work in such a diversity of atmospheres. And so, even though Mercury here is not at, let's see, what am I saying? I've skipped steps in my mind. So, Mercury can do it all. That's what we're trying to say. Maybe he could be a little bit flighty, but he, she, it, they can do it all. And this card, back to the Two of Cups. The Two of Cups is also the idea of fertility, increase. Fortunate partnerships are very possible. Now, Cancer and Leo, they're partners, right? Now, the sun and the moon, they're partners. And Cancer is not happy being in Leo. The moon is not completely happy being in Leo, just as the sun, well, the moon is not completely happy being in Leo. The moon, if we place the moon in Cancer, is not really happy being in the fire sign of Leo, which is the home of the sun. However, it can gain experience there. It can grow. It can increase self-understanding in that household, in that domicile. Why am I saying that? Because that's another understanding of this card. That fertility, increase, and fortunate partnerships, such as Cancer and Leo, such as the moon and the sun, can help the moon, can help Cancer gain more experience and deeper self-understanding, being in unfamiliar territory, very similar to the magus in reverse, right? The desire to understand more. So as we relate with other, as we relate with the opposite of us, whatever that opposite might be, and we form a partnership, even though we're not the same, we're not. For example, I'm fire, you're fire. We're just a whole bunch of fire. But if I'm fire, you're water, we meet and I grow and you grow in that merging. Does that make sense? And so we move on to the final being the Knight of Wands, upright. Knight of Wands is Sagittarius, a fire sign in winter. Though he can be sensitive as a fire starter, he seeks to impose order in an apparently chaotic environment. And what do we see? We see a person here with a torch and a pot of fire, and a salamander. Let's see, is the salamander on this side for you? Yeah, right there, where my finger is. That's a salamander. Yeah, this knight wants to impose order. Yeah, he's got his fire in a pot. The page had fire bursting all behind them, right? This knight has the fire contained in a pot and in a torch. He's got order. She's got order. They've got order. And a lot of flowers around them. There's the sun above, the sun below. Beautiful card, as always. But this knight wants things to be in their correct place. And this knight is a little sensitive. They can go off if pushed in the wrong direction or nudged in the wrong direction, or if they hear the wrong thing, they hear something they don't like, they can go off. Now their fire can, and so that's maybe why they want to put order to things so that they're less likely to go off, if that makes sense, right? Which gives us a little bit of that wanting to be balanced. But this knight requires order. This knight uses their willpower to do that. And when this knight knows what he's got to do, he can bring people together by his charisma, by her charisma, by their charisma. This knight is a shapeshifter, like the Mercury in the Two of Cups. Yeah, Mercury can be a shapeshifter. But this knight can also be a shape-shifting force and can navigate culture and wilderness and the mystical spaces equally well. Now, this knight can be equally at home in a church, out in the middle of nowhere, in the wild, or in a castle in the middle of a ball. Because this knight is the culture and also the passionate one, following their own passions. And when this knight is filled with his, her, their light and fearless, they'll rush into the cave to slay the dragon. They'll rush in and take care of stuff. But usually, one of the drawbacks is that this knight will do it not necessarily for the service of others, but because they got inspired by themselves. They're doing it for themselves. Which is different from the Page of Wands. The Page of Wands is doing stuff for the queen, for others. This knight is doing it for themselves. And so, while there are echoes of different aspects, right? We've got that being able to navigate spaces like Mercury in the Two of Cups. We've got that idea of knowing that they can do what they want to do, like the Magus. Still, I think this is a cautionary tale for us. If we are going to be the Magus in reverse, we want to be careful of this, which is the willpower card to me. So, going through the three, we want to become the Magus. We want to become the Magus who serves others as the Page of Wands in reverse. Yeah, also the Magus in reverse. And we want to be in association, emotional connection with others, but we want to be careful of moving into this I think this is the warning card, the danger card. When we begin to become sensitive to the proddings of environment or people around us, when we begin to go off, or when we need to control things too much, when we start rushing off fearlessly to get what we want, rather than flowing with ease in the direction of what we want to experience. Those are very different things, right? And so that's what I think this card is here to remind us of. Be careful. When we start stepping into this, we might want to move right back to, where are we? The Magus in reverse, because this is where we really want to be. This week, especially as we live our lives intentionally. So friends, that was the main message, and I think it's a very good, cohesive message. We've got 3 cards up in the air, like I'm juggling them, right? 3 cards up in the air. Let's take a look at those. I love this deck. This was my first soul deck. And I mentioned this in last week's video, and it's interesting that the central card of this spread came up in last week's spread as well. And that card is the reason why this deck became my soul deck. Did you notice that central card? Well, moving from left to right, we had the Chariot, the 3 of Pentacles, and then the 2 of Wands. Yes, I said it. The 3 of Pentacles. There's a typo on this. There's a misspelling of Pentacles on this card. And it's that card that made me fall deeply in love with this deck. Yeah, that made my heart sing because of that misspelling. And I'm so glad that I have this card in this deck, and I would never exchange it for the corrected card because I love this card so much. And maybe you can see that this deck is a little bit worn, but that adds to its emotional beauty. Yeah, the importance that this deck has for me and hopefully us. It's a lovely card and a lovely deck. And so we move from the Chariot to the 3 of Pentacles to the 2 of Wands. And for this air spread and the spread below, what I see is that the central cards of both the air and the earth are the main idea. And the 2 cards on the sides are the cards, things that we want to bring together to feed the card in the center. Does that make sense? So the 3 of Pentacles is our main idea for this spread, and so, or this line of 3 cards. And so let's start from there. What is the 3 of Pentacles? Yeah, different from the Rider-Waite-Smith card. Pamela Coleman-Smith draws a beautiful card in a dark, maybe basement, underground holy space, or maybe just a church at night. And there is a workman up on a ladder doing stuff, and there are 2 other male presenting figures standing below with what looks like they could be plans. One of them looks like they might be a cleric, one might be a courtier, somebody from court, and they're all discussing perhaps how to complete the project of making the church or the holy space. Here we've got a line of aspens, which are trees which are beautiful, but they don't reproduce by seeds. They reproduce by roots growing out, and from the root of the mother plant, a new plant springs up. So they're all interconnected and interdependent and feed each other and grow together. And you see that these trees in concert are growing and are being nurtured by the 3 coins, the 3 pentacles below. Now to me, these 3 things at the bottom, that's their source of their nutrition. That's the source of their life force. And so the source of their life force is what? Teamwork, collaboration, learning together, learning by doing together, by implementing plans, by implementing the things that we've decided together and making them appear in the world, making our trees grow. fraternity not in the sense of college fraternities and sororities, but fraternity in the sense of compatriots. People working together in a merry band of some sort. And it could be a fraternity or a sorority, or it could be a guild. I don't know if you've studied or learned about medieval guilds of like craftspeople, but that kind of fraternity or sorority or whatever. So yes, that's what we want to do. We want to realize that as we live our intentional lives, we are completely and inextricably interconnected with each other. There's no doing this life alone. Whether it's other people or the rest of the universe or other cells in our bodies and other cells in the air, and all of this is a massive co-creation of within the greater existence of the non-physical. That's all a co-creation. So this card is here reminding us of that, and we're doing stuff together. And how are we going to do stuff together? Well, we've got the willpower card right on the side. But you'll notice that the willpower card is not the center. It's not the main image, right? It's not the main point. It's the side point, bounced off by the Two of Wands. So, and there's a kind of echo to me of these two. Yeah, you see this two-ness here and the two-ness here and the bright light between. There's a mirroring of these two. One of them is willpower. Is our choosing the path. We focus ourselves and we make sure that we don't deviate and run up against these two cliffs on the side. We move our ship through the center of our current of intention, perhaps. So it's willpower, it's determination, and it's control. And sometimes we do feel the desire to control things, to control outcomes, to make things happen. But that's not intention, right? It's action as well, and we want to have action. We want to be active in our intentional lives. We don't want, caveat, caveat, caveat. If we are unable to stand and walk and move, we want to appreciate this idea in a different way. But let's begin with those of us who are fully able to navigate this world physically, whether it's by walking or by moving in a wheelchair. So for us, we want to take action in the world. We want to move about in the world because that's why we came into these bodies. So yeah, that part of the chariot is definitely for us. Now, if we are unable to even move in a wheelchair, perhaps, or we don't have a wheelchair that is available to us because we don't have that kind of, those resources. There are other ways for us to be active in our lives. We can be active in our lives by communicating with others and interacting with others without movement. But there's still an action in that, right? There's still an active potential for active participation in our lives. And that's what this card is, whether it's by getting up and walking around or by moving in a wheelchair or by influencing others and by communicating with others. There's that action, which could lead to success, victory even. And there's that willpower, the part of willpower which we want to take advantage of to be able to keep ourselves as open as we possibly can to this powerful course of intention. So if we can imagine that this is intention moving us, and it's our willpower that keeps us on course. That doesn't drive the boat forward. The boat that we're riding on this river is driven by the river. But we're navigating, we're making sure that we are taking advantage of the powerful flow of water rather than veering off to the side and crashing into a rock. That portion of willpower, where we keep ourselves, we what? We continue to check in with our emotional level. How am I doing today? Am I happy? Am I irritated? Am I freaking pissed off? Am I hopeful? Am I bored? Am I dissatisfied? Yeah, we do that in emotional check in order to know where we're pointed on the powerful force of intention. And if we're mostly in the area of joy and gratitude, then we know that we're pointed in the direction that we want. And if we're not, if we're in the area of irritation and dissatisfaction, or if we're in the area of anger and frustration, if we're in the area of hopelessness and depression, then we're not pointed in the direction of our intention. So we want to, if we, as much as we possibly can, use our willpower to do what we want to do, to move our emotional set point in the direction of at least satisfaction or above, so that we know that we're open to the powerful flow of intention. So that's an act of will. The act of will that will point us in the direction of the flow of our intention. And maybe that act of will could be moving us in the direction of counseling, so that we can move ourselves. We might not be able to do it on our own, and that's okay. That's wonderful. Finding help to move ourselves in the direction of our gratitude, of our love, of our joy, of our satisfaction even. That's a beautiful thing, and that takes an act of will. You have to have the willpower to participate in that counseling, in that therapy, in that help. And that's also what this card is about to me. So if we read this as the willpower and determination to get things done, no. But the willpower and determination to be open to the powerful flow of intention, yes, and more yes. So this feeds our ability to work together. And this feeds our ability to work together. The Two of Wands. Now, they're not on fire yet. They'll start sparking in the Three of Wands in this deck. Now, the Two of Wands in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, there's the guy on the castle with the two wands and holding a globe, and future planning, discovery of the direction that they want to go in, aspirations for the direction they want to move in, the lives they want to create, the acts they want to do, the events they want to experience, the travels they want to take. Here, we've just got these two wands, and we're invited to enter into the card and take hold of these two wands and discover what they will do for us, and use them to help us plan the direction that we want to go in. Plan the course of our river of intention. So these two cards together work beautifully, right? We keep ourselves open by willpower to the powerful flow of intention, and we guide our flow of intention by planning and discovery of the things we think we want to do, which is part of that Magus in reverse, right? That self-investigation and understanding who we are and what we really want to do. Not what we think we want to do, not what ego or society tells us we want to do, but what we really want to do, what we really want to experience. What do you want to do? What do you want to experience? What loves do you want to create? What families do you want to nurture? What homes do you want to live in? What vacations do you want to take? What jobs do you want to do? What creative activities do you want to engage in? And that's all part of this, that planning and looking and understanding and investigating. These two things together allow us to do this beautifully. Now, they feed our ability to co-create with others. Does that make sense? I think that's so interesting. And I think that helps reinforce the main idea of this spread wonderfully. So friends, that was the air. That's where we want to place our attention. That's what we want to think about and we want to explore with our minds, also with our hearts perhaps. We want to explore that. Now we've got the earth to dive into. Let's take a look at the earthy section of the spread. Friends, here we are in the earthy side of the spread. And again, we've got these beautiful cards, right? A different deck, but beautiful cards, and a little bit surprising. This, especially the third card of this spread, we went from left to right with the 10 of Cups. The perspective card, which is the Hanged Man card, my spirit card, my soul card. Yeah, I'm the Hanged Man in the Moon, right? That's my moniker. And then the 9 of Swords. That's what surprised me a lot. But after some reflection, it made sense. Because in this set of 3, we're also going to be taking this as the main point. This is what we want to focus, place our mind. We want to inhabit, like we do physically, inhabit a new perspective. That's part of what that main idea, the thesis statement of this spread, the 4 cards in the center. That's one of the ideas of that set of 4 cards. We were asked for a new perspective, and with the Magus in reverse, that new perspective can be an introspection. And then the Page of Wands in reverse, it's being in the background and having a perspective from the background so that we can influence and inspire others to do the things that will benefit us, the Queen, and them. Right? It's a mutually beneficial thing that we are inspiring and influencing those people around us to do. And that all asks for a new perspective. The Hanged Man. Now, in the Hanged Man card in Pamela Coleman Smith, there's art, and in Tarot de Marseille, there's actually a dude upside down hanging from their foot. In most decks. There's one that is printed in reverse, and it looks like the guy is rising up, dancing a jig. But mostly, they're a person hanging upside down from their foot. Even in a Thoth deck, it's a person, a man, usually, hanging upside down from one foot. But here we've got these hot air balloons that have risen up. And if you can see just barely, there's the edge of a balloon here, of a basket. So basket at the bottom of each of these balloons. And there's the edge of a basket here. So that implies that we are in our own balloon that we cannot see. And we're seeing other balloons also floating off in the direction that we're heading. Now, we may also be looking back and seeing those balloons that are following us. That's also possible. But whether we are leading or we are following, still, we've got a whole new perspective. We're up above the clouds. We're up above the confusion, right? And we can see mountains peeking through the clouds, but we're up above it all. And from this higher perspective, we have a new perspective than we had when we were on the ground underneath the cloud cover of confusion. So that's where we want to move. We want to move into a place of having a new perspective above the confusion. And this could be a pause. It could ask of us to pause, to take time, to surrender to what is rather than being dissatisfied with what is and trying to use our willpower to fix it and change it and make it different. This is also asking us to surrender to what is, to let go. Not let go and let God, but also let go and let intention move us in the direction of the things that we have created for ourselves vibrationally, and that we are moving in the direction of as soon as we do let go. Because that's what intention does, right? That's what intention brings us to. What are the things that you want, that you have desired, that you know that you will be able to create, and those are the things that you've placed on your powerful river of intention. And as soon as we open ourselves to that power of intention, we're going to start moving in that direction. So this card is reminding us to just let go. Let go and move. Like a modern dancer does. Yeah, a modern dancer lets go. The modern dancer learns the structure, learns the form, learns the postures, exercises the body so that they can, in the instant of dance, let go and allow the dance to happen through them. That's living an intentional life. And that's what this card is also asking us to remember with our new perspective. Now, we suspend. And as we suspend in the powerful current of our intention, we move in the direction that we want for ourselves as eternal beings having these human experiences. And it might include some prophecy because we can see farther. But because this is in the earthy section of the spread, what is the doing? The doing right now is to pause, to surrender, to let go, and get a new perspective. Yeah, which is an airy thing, but still, we do the physical thing of stopping and letting go so that we can have that new perspective. And what influences that new perspective? Well, the nice side of that is the Ten of Cups. And here, instead of in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, where we have what looks like a family, a mother and a father and two children, we see them from the back, and the mother and father have their arms around each other, and the children are playing in front, and there's this rainbow of cups and rainbow and cups above, and there's their home, what we assume to be perhaps their home out in the distance, and it's a card of divine love and family and blissful relationships. Here we have an orca family. Now, orcas travel in familial groups. So we got that, and we've also got the idea of we've got the rainbow coming in from, I think it's from, this side coming down, so the rainbow's there. We've got the water element in spades, which is weird because spades are air, right? But we've got the water element in fullness. We're in the middle of it. We're living in water. We're living in emotion. We are surrounded by and accustomed to, and it is our appropriate place. This is where we want to live and where we should be living. Because this is where we are the most healthy, the most active, the most alive. So the Ten of Cups generally it's a harmony, happiness, joy. It's also alignment. Yeah, our alignment will feed our ability to have a new perspective when we take a moment, when we pause, when we surrender, when we let go. And some people take issue or have trouble with the Ten of Cups because it's just too much. Yeah, some people don't think that they can get to Ten of Cups. They can get to Nine of Cups, the satisfaction and happiness with what they have and who they have in their lives, but this Ten of Cups thing seems like an impossible, mythical landscape of bliss that is unrealistic in a physical world, in a physical universe. And I get that, I can understand that a little bit, but to me, it's a little bit different. To me, the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles, and I've said this several times, are similar to each other in that they're both in their own element cards where we have enough for ourselves and enough for others. Yeah, we have our stuff all established and settled, and it's working well, and we've got enough left over to be able now to lift others up as well. So for the Pentacles is, I've got my legacy, I've got my home, I've got my kingdom, my estate, my whatever, my property, my stuff, all nicely arranged, and I have enough also to begin to nurture, to sustain others with that. in the pentacle suit. Now in the cups, it's the same thing. Instead of having my house in the physical sense, my property, my estate, I've got my emotions all set. I'm in my element. I'm living in my element, and I am satisfied with my element. And I've also got more now. I've got more, so I can now emotionally and intuitively and imaginatively feed others as well. I can emotionally nurture and nourish those around me as well. It's the next step of I've got myself taken care of, and now I can put the mask on you and take care of you a little bit. You'll hear emotionally in the pentacles, physically with stuff, with food, with money, with other resources. Here with emotional resources and with intuition. Now, because the cups is also the suit of spirit, I can help nourish you spiritually. I can help nourish you intuitively, empathically. I can help nourish you emotionally. That's what this is to me. So on the one side, this is where we want to be to live our intentional lives, right? That's the direction we want to be moving in. And maybe we cannot stay in that. And we don't want to stay in that, actually, 100% of the time. It's when we drop out of that we're the most creative in some ways. And it's when I came to that I realized that this card makes more sense. Can you see where I'm going with that? Because if we are here all of the time, we're probably not going to have too many new perspectives. We're not going to learn too much. We're going to start perhaps even stagnating if we don't have those ups and downs. Now, even within this, there can be ups and downs within the 10 of Cups and still be the 10 of Cups. However, for really impressive, dramatic, new perspectives, sometimes the 9 of Swords event is helpful to us. The times where we have those nightmares, and in this card, instead of the figure sitting up in bed with this quilt over their legs in the dark, dark night, and these 9 swords on the wall or suspended in the air above them, here we've got us in our beds, looking up over the covers, and what do we see at the end of our bed? We have these scary nightmare figures, right? Let me bring that closer to you. Can you see that? See the eyes and the ghostly faces and the figures of nightmares. That's what these figures are there to represent. So this is still the nightmare card. Anxiety, worry, fear, feeling haunted by the past perhaps, but not necessarily the distant past. Maybe we're haunted by a recent past event of anxiety and having, or we could be haunted by the future. Just like in A Christmas Carol, yeah, the ghost of Christmas future comes in. It's the scariest looking of the 3, right? So we can be haunted by the future as well. So being troubled, being depressed, this could be a depressed card, or grieving the loss of people. Yeah, these could also be our ancestors or people who have passed and are trying to communicate with us through our grieving, through our depression. It could be that as well. So we've got all of that potentially here to feed us. Does that make sense? Can you see how that could feed our new perspective? As long as we're not only here, as long as we have access to this and this together, this is so much more possible, right? And I'd never thought about this before, but maybe if this is also a grieving card, this could also be those people coming to us from the spirit world, communicating with us. And we're not ready for it yet, and so we retreat into fear and anxiety, but this could also be a new, important, or helpful communication. It could be our spirit guides, whether it be our parents or grandparents or siblings who have passed, maybe even, God forbid, our children who have passed. Coming back and because we're not prepared for it, are reacting in fear. But still, that could give us a new perspective. As long as we've got this as well, right? Those shocks, those frights, those worries, when we let them go, a new perspective is possible, right? So I think this is a really, really interesting overall spread, isn't it? Where have we come so far? So we started in the center with we want to be the magus in reverse. Do the ego work, do the work to penetrate and break through or move past the ego mind and the ego desires and the ego fantasies into who we truly are. And our ability to manifest those things and keep our balance. We want to be able to work from the background like the Page of Wands and keep our own counsel. Have a 360 perspective, and still find way or allow our ability to influence and inspire others to do the things that we want to accomplish for ourselves, for our queen, for them, to be done. As we move into that concert of the Two of Cups, we use all aspects of our mind and we work and communicate in relationship with each other, just like the Three of Pentacles. And we're careful of not moving into the very negative potential of the Knight of Wands, of rushing in and trying to get things done for ourselves, of being too sensitive and needing to control too much, right? So then we moved into the air. Where is our perspective? Our perspective is working together. And as we work together, we want to balance both our willpower, the willpower to keep ourselves open to intention, and our ability to use our two wands to explore and discover what the possibilities are, where we can move with our power of intention. As we work together as the Three of Pentacles, the Three of Discs, the Three of Pentacles. Now we move down into the what to do in the daily world. We want to do the Ten of Cups and keep ourselves open to the fullness of our love and joy, to the fullness that we can experience those. And when we have enough to share, nurture those around us, emotionally, intuitively, empathically, also spiritually. As we also take the learning possible from our nightmares, from our fears, our frights, and maybe even communication from the spirit world, which can be a little frightening and scary and unsettling. And both of those can raise our balloons higher for an even higher and newer and different perspective, which allows us to understand more clearly who we are and the direction we want to be going in. Does that make sense? So we've come this far in this spread. We've got two cards of advice. Let's take a look at those two cards of advice because they're really interesting. These two cards are from the Oracle deck that I'm using for this lunar cycle. And you'll notice that they are both upside down, and that is not a mistake. Now, this Oracle deck is intended to be used with reversals as well. And so I'm shuffling reversals into this deck every time I shuffle it as well. And the first week I used the deck, they were both upright, which was an interesting surprise. Second week I used the deck, last week, one was upright, one was reverse. This time they're both in reverse, yeah? Swan spirit and turtle spirit. So this is the Swan spirit card upright, which the quote at the bottom says, "Time to dive deep." It's a beautiful card, right? lovely swan flowers. What are they? Are they, I forgot to check what flower those are. They might be geraniums, but it's a beautiful, if you know what flower those are, let me know in the comments below. So it's a beautiful card of swan and flowers. I don't think they're lotuses, but anyways. What is this card trying to tell us? In reverse, in protection. This is the, in reverse, these are medicine cards. They're here to prescribe things that we may want to do in order to benefit ourselves, rather than giving us, yeah, you're doing a really good job, but this is here to say, let's try this so that we can improve our ability to live more intentional lives. So, what do we want to do? Well, this is here to tell us that maybe this is not the best time to dive deep to discover the potential when you can see how things are right now. Now, swans dive into the water to explore and find food, right? That's why they have these long necks, to dive into the water and find food. They're not surface eaters like ducks are. They dive deep. In reverse, this is telling us maybe this isn't the best time to dive deep in one sense. Now, in the outer sense, if you can see that that person on the surface is not behaving in a way that you find you want to interact with, rather than, well, you know, I know that this is a child of God, and maybe if I just give that person more of a chance and I really investigate that person and who they really are, then I will discover the jewel within. This is not the time for that. You see this opportunity and it looks a little bit shaky, but you think, you know, if I really investigate it, maybe there's something in there for me. And now this is not the time for that. Now this is not the time for going out and just investigating, doing deep dives into things that are possible in the world for us, when it seems pretty clear what they are on the surface. Sometimes we do want to judge the book by their cover, and this is one of those times. This is not the time to find the jewel in the person that we find unsettling in the world. It's not the best use of our time right now. Now, at a later time, sure. There are plenty of times when that's a wonderful thing to do, because all of us are children of God. All of us are creating these physical human beings. Not human doings, but human beings in the world. But now is not that time. Yeah? This is not the time for getting into fixer-uppers, be it people or opportunities. This is not the time to get into a fixer-upper. This is the time to dive deep into self, to discover what lies in here instead. Finding out what we know in our depths that will help us understand ourselves and others and make better choices. So can you see how this card gives us a really good wrap-up of the Magus card in reverse and the perspective card in the earth side of the spread? Now, dive deep into who we are to discover who we are, what we really want, who we really want to be in the world, and understand ourselves more. And in that way, we can better understand where we are, who we are interacting with, and what we want to do, the choices we want to make. Right? So, this is in combination with this, the turtle spirit. Turtle spirit, let me show it to you upright. Also a lovely card. What it says below is, slow and steady wins the race. The tortoise and the hare story, right? Slow and steady wins the race. So, upright, yeah, means keep on keeping on, keep on trucking. Don't rush for anything. There's no need to rush. There's no need to hurry. Hurrying will just cause you to mess up. In reverse, instead of keep on keeping on, this is saying, careful. Maybe you're pushing too hard and advancing is not the best use of our energy now. So the swan told us trying to fix things out to dive deep into other people doing fixer-upper relationships, fixer-upper jobs. That's not the best use of our time. Also here, pushing and advancing and using our willpower and determination in that way is not the best use of our time. Again, very similar to a wrap-up of the entire spread. It's time to let go of the drive to complete and control and do more, like that Knight of Wands. Let it go. Right? It's time to slow to a crawl, perhaps, or even stop. Pause, perspective. Even if cultural messages, even if the world is telling us that if we don't keep up, if we don't run the race, if we don't engage in the rat race, we're going to lose. We're going to lose, and we're going to be failures, and we're going to be unsuccessful, and we won't be loved, and people won't appreciate us, and we're not going to be good. We're bad, bad, bad people. Even if the cultural messages are that, even if the cultural messages slow down and lose, it's time to slow down, it's time to stop. Because of course we never stop. There is no stopping in this physical universe. Really. If nothing else, the planet is spinning around, the planet is moving around a star, this whole entire solar system is moving at incredible speeds through the universe. Our galaxy is also moving at incredible speeds through the universe. There is no stopping in this physical universe. Stopping means blinking out of existence, and you're still here. I know you're still here. If you are within the sound of my voice, you are still here. There's no real stopping. However, like the perspective card, slow down, stop. So that we can really see, so we can get that 360 perspective that we wanted in the Page of Cups reversed, Page of Wands reversed. Trust that peace, prosperity, love, purpose are ours. All of that is ours. We don't have to rush and reach out and find it and grab it and get it. It is ours. All we want, all that is asked of us is to open to the powerful flow of intention, and we will naturally move with our intention. And that reminds me of something that comes from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, which is an ancient, I'll go with ancient, an ancient Chinese text, which one of my, I printed it out. One of my favorite translations of the Tao Te Ching is by Stephen Mitchell. And this is from number 38. There are, I forget how many chapters or poems there are to the Tao Te Ching, but this is number 38. It's one of my favorites. And I won't read you the whole thing. It's not that long, but I'm only going to read you the first half. And again, this is a translation by Stephen Mitchell, my favorite. It says, "The master doesn't try to be powerful, thus he is truly powerful." Now, gendered pronoun, I know, we're all he's in this sense. He, she, theys, we're all he's. Yeah? The ordinary man keeps reaching for power, thus he never has enough. So again, the master does not try to be powerful, thus he is truly powerful. The ordinary man keeps reaching for power, thus he never has enough. He keeps reaching, more power, power. And so he is weak. The master reaches for nothing and so is infinitely powerful. Power of intention. The master, the power of the Do, of the Tao, in Korean we say Do, the master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done. The master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done. So the more we do, ultimately the less we accomplish. However, the master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. Now that page of wands reversed. So we've got that in this one poem, we've got that Magus reversed and the page of wands reversed. And that's living the Tao. That's living Do in Korean. That's living the intentional life. To me. Does that make sense? And I think that's what this entire spread is here to remind us of. It's not willpower, it's intention power. And yes, willpower again. What kind of willpower? The willpower that keeps us on track instead of just going to sleep and running aground on the banks of the river or crashing into cliffs on the side. We open to the power and we keeping open and keeping in direction, which is the easy direction. It's not the direction of hardness and suffering and striving and work. That's moving in the opposite direction. That's moving against the current of intention. It's the direction of joy, of love, of gratitude, of peace, of interest, of excitement, of activity. Not work, not effort, but activity and interest. And what can I do? How can we do this? Oh my gosh, look at that. And oh, let's try this. And oh. That's the power of intention. Does that sound like working hard and effort and striving and struggling and suffering for your art? Or is it more like expressing and exploring and learning and discovering and loving your art into existence? That's living the intentional life. And that's what we're asked to do this week. And for this week, whenever you're watching this, for this time, it's not so much moving forward, it's stopping and getting perspective. Moving beneath, beyond, behind what ego is telling us, behind what society seems to be doing, finding our space. And taking the time to do that, and diving into ourselves rather than trying to fix the stuff around us. Because our power, again, is by being, not by grabbing for it, not by grabbing the power. It's by being who we are. Our doing of stuff is not by working hard, it's by allowing things to be done through us. And those are very different experiences. So friends, that's this week's reading. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. Does that make sense? If it does, let me know in the comments below. And friends, if you are still here, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people will get something out of this as well. And it will draw more eyes to the channel. It helps the channel. It benefits all of us. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I try to do 3 a week these days. Sometimes I might come out with a 4th. And I'm going to be doing a deep dive into another deck next month. So you get notifications of when those videos come up. Hit the alarm bell. And again, comment below. I would love to hear from you. And if you want a private reading from me, my email address is below. Send me an email and we'll work it out. What deck do you want? What question do you want answered? How do you want the reading to be done? By video, by photo, by Zoom, by video chat? We can work something out. So friends, thank you very much for coming on this journey with me. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.